Not even earth tones. They're like
Premed office hours for June 4th, 2025. You are interrupting our conversation about the colors. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the rainbow. Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Yes.
It is an exciting month to support our LGBT friends and colleagues and allies and all that good stuff.
That's right.
All right. And now the administration has us pegged as DEI people, and we're going to be shut down soon. So it's been nice knowing you, everyone. I'm off to El Salvador.
just make sure they have a stable connection so you can
yes. As long as I can live stream from El Salvador.
Prison.
You're going to have to LLC it in El Salvador so they can't get you.
Yeah. As we get started here, everyone say hello. Where are you from? Where are you watching from? And then we'll talk about these colors. So Carlos, you asked where these colors came from. The colors come from the original artwork that was created for what was known as Ask the Dean originally, that was rebranded to Premed office hours. Yellow is a very good color in marketing because it gets people's attention. And so there's lots of yellows and other fun colors. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah, I was just curious.
For those who don't know, my name is Dr. Ryan Gray, founder of Medical School Headquarters Mapped, author of the Premed Playbook series. Currently working on the Premed Playbook. I don't even know what the name's going to be. I don't even know if it's going to be called the Premed Playbook, but it'll be a book for parents of pre-meds. So got that up and running. Yeah, that's who I am. We have Reverend Dr. James Scott Wright, former director of admissions at UT Southwestern, retired executive director at TMDSAS. Scott, how you doing today?
Doing well. Just I'm a little stopped up.
I can hear.
But yeah. I'm going to be having surgery next 2 weeks from yesterday.
Oh no.
For polyp in my sinuses.
Oh, that's always the code to get a free nose job.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I have a deviated septum.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
I actually do have a polyp, so okay. That's why I sound like I'm in a tunnel. So
I hope everything goes well.
Yeah, thank you.
Speaking of TMDSAS, we're robbing them blind, stealing all their employees. We got a new one who joined us recently as director of products, who's going to head up Mapped, Enrique Hasso.
Yes.
He was the director at TMDSAS. He was under you for a while. So super excited to grow our team with amazing people from the great state of Texas, as you both are.
Yep.
And now Enrique. Carlos Tapia, former director of student affairs at Icahn School of Medicine, former director of admissions at TCU, also known as Ann Burnett. How you doing, Carlos?
Good. And a couple things. Deviated septum is a thing because I got mine fixed. There wasn't a free nose job. Second, I'm also having surgery soon, so that's fun. Welcome to the club. And 3, if the DEI thing doesn't get us kicked out, you undercutting other corporations might.
Well, considering TMDSAS is not a corporation, but a state-run entity, I'm all about it.
True.
I'm all about it.
Well, now the state of Texas is coming.
They can't get me. Well, state of Texas wants to secede anyway, so let them run away, and I'll take all their people.
Lord, here we go.
All right, friends, we are here for an hour of talking about Texas and how every other state is better than. Welcome to Texas Tuesdays. That's what we should do. We should call it Texas Tuesdays and just have you and Enrique and Carlo, you three on.
Yes.
We'll do that.
We can do that.
We're here to answer pre-med questions. The application cycle is open as of last week for AMCAS. So everyone can submit their applications. Super excited. Eric, can a difficult family dynamic and the fact that it complicated and made your academic journey be challenging be something you can include in your disadvantaged essay? Well, first of all, Eric, there is no disadvantaged essay. except on TMDSAS. Scott, I don't know if you knew this. We had a submission for Application Academy yesterday, and it was a disadvantaged essay for TMDSAS. I'm like, when does TMDSAS have a disadvantaged essay? And so I texted Enrique. He's like, I don't know what essay that is. And then we dug in further. He's like, oh, that one was added in 2024 as part of it's included more in the socioeconomic status part of the application.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, family dynamic and complicating academic journey. This question came up on Reddit many years ago, and it was a student that's like, hey, I'm a woman, and based on my religion, higher education is not something that is wanted or expected. We're supposed to stay home and have a family and do all that kind of stuff. And because I want to be a physician, my family has disowned me. I was unhoused for a while. They kicked me out, right? All this stuff. And they were asking, when on AMCAS, it was still the disadvantaged essay. They were asking, can I put this in my disadvantaged essay? And lots of people are like, no, because they clearly stated in the essay, like, we don't come from poverty. We are kind of middle class. We're fine financially. So lots of people are like, no, that doesn't count as disadvantage. And I was like, no, that's exactly what the disadvantage. So that's why I love the fact that they change it to other impactful experiences.
Yes.
Because it encompasses that. So for Eric, other impactful experiences, 100%. For TMDSAS disadvantage, I would have to know specifically, is TMDSAS exclusively wanting socioeconomic disadvantage? That may be a different thing. Scott, do you have any other thoughts for that TMDSAS essay? I don't know if you've seen it since you've left.
I'm Googling it right now.
Yeah. Enrique didn't provide me any other insight other than what it was. It was added to the SES calculation. So sure, of course. So they're using it as part of their socioeconomic status calculation. So to me, that is more of a financial disadvantage, and maybe not a great answer for this one. Carlos, you have thoughts?
No, because again, to your point, MCAS changed it right to other impactful.
Yeah, so for that one, I think is great.
But disadvantage.
Yeah,
I don't know. Kind of toys the line.
Yeah,
I always say answer the question if it applies. Don't create your own, because I've had a couple people ask me, like, can I put this here? And I'm like, does it answer the question? And they're like, well, and I'm like, it doesn't. So why would you use it to create your own narrative?
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. Our friend Vanity Nutrition, thrilled to say I have another interview. Received it on Monday. Congrats. Can you shed any light on why there has been uber minimal waitlist movement this cycle? I don't know if I have data to say there's uber minimal Vanity Nutrition. I'm assuming you're just talking about Reddit and Student Doctor Network saying there is minimal. I haven't heard that from anyone, so I can't say there is or isn't. Have you guys heard anything?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me. This is the fun of being connected with lots of people. Let me send an email to a current dean of admissions who can let me know a little bit, at least for their specific school. Any comment on waitlist movement this year? Some are saying it's very low. We'll see what she says. All right. We'll get don't need your banner up there anymore, Carlos. I heard about DO schools. Yeah. Okay. I can text another person too. Let me see. All right. While I'm looking at that, if you are only applying DO and there's no disadvantage essay, can I include how I've overcome a challenging childhood, poverty, urban schools, addiction, abuse shelters, etc., in my personal statement or not? See, this is connections. This person has said, we have made less offers than last year at this time. So yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Potentially some less movement going on.
Very
I will be interested to see, and I'll hide this comment for a second. I'll be interested to see as more tools are being used to select who to interview and who to accept. AI tools, specifically tools that are supposed to help admissions committees try to only interview the students that, based on historic data for that school, the algorithm, the program, the AI, whatever you want to call it, is saying, hey, this person is more likely than not to come to your school if accepted. And so schools are going to be using this software to invite less people for interviews. And with less people to interview and less acceptances that go out, there will inevitably be less waitlist movement because people are kind of positioned where they should be from the beginning. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on that actually, but my thought about the use of AI, I understand what you're saying. However, that essentially means that you're quantifying every aspect of the application. So you're quantifying personal statement, you're quantifying letters, you're quantifying the interview in order for AI to be able to analyze and come to a judgment. And my fear is that that's what medical schools were so accused of 30 years ago, is that you're just putting everything in a computer program and spitting out, and it's all based on MCAT and GPA, the metrics. And so I just fear, that if medical schools dive too much into that it will remove the human element from it. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, I hear you. And I also think, right, I tend to overestimate the power of technology and AI and where it's at. I think you're underestimating, in some respects, the ability for AI to read and understand.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it will do a good job of reading a personal statement and going, does this person really fit our mission? Without what I was talking to, who was I talking to yesterday? I was talking to one of our advisors yesterday. And we were talking specifically about this and specifically around activity descriptions and how to write them and what's our kind of recommendation in general. And there was a discussion around what I generally call keyword stuffing, right? If there are computers that are reading these essays, if a student just says, I believe in holistic medicine and compassion and what are the all of the buzzwords, right? Patient-centered, the whatever, disadvantage, cultural competence, right? If they're just throwing those words in there, I think historically, yes, software was stupid and was like, ooh, this person is really good at that. But I think it's getting much better at that. And I think to the point where these programs will be able to read a personal statement and understand a personal statement the way a reviewer will. And quantify it in a way that, based on whatever that school's rubric is, if they have one, will be very, very similar. So I'm excited to see. I think
I agree.
I think if students, right, if you think of almost like a change sorter, right? You throw your pennies and nickels and quarter, like all that stuff in a machine, everything just kind of ends up where it should end up. I think that's kind of maybe where we're headed, with less stress and less shuffling around at the last minute, which I think is better for everyone.
Yeah. Interesting.
Voidbot, AI has already erased a lot of the medical scribe positions in my area. Yeah. I think I'm in a physician Facebook group, and they talk about several AI programs that they just rave about, going, hey, this is cutting down my workload and X, Y, and Z. I think it's great. Will medical scribes be a thing in 10 years? Probably not. Is that a bad thing? No, we'll just find other places for students to go, right? I think it's always that concern of when new technology comes and kind of wipes out one industry, like that technology has now created other industries and new opportunities and all kinds of just places for people to go. So I don't know. I'm a tech nerd, so
really.
Really. All right. Where was the question I brought up earlier? I don't know. All right. Let's bring up Mustafa. What do we do if we are still a bit unsure if we really want to be a doctor? Should I focus on getting opportunities for my biotech major or the pre-med requirements? Carlos, it sounds like Mustafa's focused on the academic side, right? Pre-med requirements versus biotech major, unless he's talking about extracurricular activities for being a pre-med. Any thoughts on how to come to the conclusion? Am I on the right path or not?
Yeah, I think it all goes down to getting clinical experiences and seeing what a physician does on a day in, day out for you to make that decision. I mean, we talk about it, right, as using patients and clinical stories and physician interactions to reinforce your journey of why you want to become a physician. And I think this is an opportunity for you to take that, literally what you write, and make that part of your career exploration to ensure that you are on the right path. I think you don't want to go into this process second guessing. One, I think committees will see through that, right? That you're unsure of what you want to do. And two, I say this to everybody, and this is how I advise my students, like, this process is not for the faint of heart. And if you think you're going to skim by and just be very surface level, you're probably not going to end up very far in this process. So you should do everything you need to do for your own sake to discover and determine whether this is the path for you, so that as you move forward, you know that you're doing what you need to do and that you're on the sort of right career trajectory. But that's the only way that you can do that. It's exploration. And it shouldn't be the academic just focusing on those things. I think you have to make the decision at some point as well. If not, you're just going to be wasting time and going around about whether I should do it, not do it, come back, I'm going to do it, and then not do it.
Yeah.
And create your own chaos in your own sort of journey.
Yeah. Just go explore. Chanel, older non-trad. If my undergrad graduated over 10 years ago, GPA is only 3.1, geology. But I've had recently taken my prereqs for med school at community college, earned a 3.65. Will this be okay? Scott, we talk about optimal, acceptable, not acceptable in terms of kind of categorizing things. Community college, we've talked for a long time, is acceptable, not necessarily optimal for every medical school. Thoughts on their journey? Good upward trend, 3.65, not amazing, but better than that 3.1 originally.
Yeah, I mean, good. Yeah, I agree with that. It's promising. I would say, Chanel, good job. Excellent. My guess is that you're working full time, and so community college is the only thing you can do because they offer schedules that are more attainable for non-traditional students. It's cheaper, obviously, than a four-year institution typically, and so kudos to you for doing that. I would say it would help you if you were able to pick up a few classes at a university, upper level biological science classes, to really confirm for medical schools that what you're doing at the community college level is real, and that, to just kind of continue that upward trend if that's possible. But I definitely think that you've done a great job, and so good for you on that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think there's a little piece of information missing here, right? How many credits has it been?
Right.
Were they all science credits? Were you adding in some non-science stuff as well? So typically when you're looking for that upward trend, the higher the GPA and the longer the credits, the more the credits, the better. So.
Right. That's right.
Good luck, Chanel. Question from Instagram. Are 5,125 characters too little for my personal statement? Thinking I should beef up my reflection more to get closer to the 5,300. Carlos, our cutoff is 5,126, right? So it's a little short. When is too little too little?
I think when you're like 5,300 characters and you're submitting 4,000, I would concern, right? 4,500, but you're close to that mark. I think as long as your messaging is getting across, don't feel like you must utilize every single character.
Yep.
But take that into consideration that your story needs to be conveyed and it has to be clear, and that you're doing everything that you can within those constraints. Don't drive yourself crazy if it's a couple hundred here and there.
Yeah. So just for fun, right? I pulled up a let me share my screen. I pulled up this lorem ipsum generator, which just generates text. So this is 5,300 characters. Right? It's 5,300 bytes, which should be a character. If it's not, sue me. Right? So that's 5,300 characters, roughly. Right? Actually, here, let's do it a different way, just to make sure. Doc.new. All right. Yeah, it's much longer than 5,300 here. Oh, it is 5,300 characters. See? Boom. I knew a byte was a character. See, that's the computer nerd in me. All right. So, what's 5,300 minus 5,125? 175 characters. So this is that's 589. So when you actually look at what 175 characters is, it's this, right? It's like literally that much. So when you're saying, hey, mine is only 5,125, you're saying I'm missing out on that much. So no, it's not a problem. Now, Carlos, to your point, when you're like, hey, when it's 4,000 characters, now if I'm 1,300 characters less than, this is going to be like 15. Yeah, 16. Right now you're looking at a lot. That's a big chunk versus a line or two. So.
And the other thing I encourage is, you're giving the opportunity to share in 5,300 characters what they're asking you.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that.
I was sharing the wrong thing. You guys didn't tell me again.
Sorry.
Man, I share the wrong thing and you guys never tell me. And then I just look like a fool and I'm going to go and be embarrassed. All right. So sharing this again, right? So this is 5,300 characters. This is the personal statement, right? Just to show you 5,300 characters right there, right? So being 175 short is this. That's basically what the student is saying. Hey, if it's missing that many characters, is it going to be okay? The answer is yes.
Yeah, right. As if they would know even.
Exactly. Versus like Carlos, you were mentioning 4,000. This is 1,200 characters. It's getting closer to that 1,300, right? If it was missing all of that, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
See, when I share the right thing, it works better. You can see what I'm talking about. You guys aren't good wingmen. Make sure I don't embarrass myself. Jeez.
Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. Do medical schools compare you to your demographic during admissions? Interesting. So I'm assuming demographic, you mean race and ethnicity? Scott, there's this idea that all white people are put together, all Asians are put together, all Hispanics, Latinx people are put together, all Black people are put together. And like we're all put in buckets and compared in silos. That's exactly how it works, right?
No, no. I mean, in my experience in Texas, and I think in a number of states in the union, it's a race blind process.
Yeah.
We don't. The admissions committee does not know the race ethnicity of the applicant. It's not a part of the conversation. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Now there are some things that we would look at that can often correlate with ethnicity, but we're not pulling out all the white people, as you said, and then comparing them within their little silos.
Yeah.
No, that's just not how it works at all.
I get into an argument recently in the parent Facebook group where this idea of being Asian and needing a higher MCAT score is required. And I think that's basically the same question here is, oh, you're Asian, we expect you to have a higher MCAT score. Yeah. And I think, right, there's obviously the lawsuits that went up to the Supreme Court and SCOTUS overturning affirmative action. I was just at a conference last week and there was a panel of admissions people on the panel. And they said post that SCOTUS decision, they didn't have to change anything because they were already race blind. So I think there's a difference between using race as a checkbox, as a thing that goes, oh, you're a Black student, we need a Black student. You're a Hispanic student, we need a Hispanic student. I don't really care about your stats, right? There's that idea of that's what affirmative action is. And these schools are like, no, like, we're removing that barrier and just looking at the student, looking at their story, and their story may include some of their race and ethnicity, and that is part of their journey. But I was making this argument. There is data that shows that Asian students have higher MCAT scores, but that does not mean that you need higher MCAT scores as an Asian student to get into medical school. Those are two separate things. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can say it all the time. Nobody believes me.
Yeah.
It's okay. Oh, man.
I think that this is a huge issue, particularly within the political context that we're in.
Yep.
Or how things really work. Yep. And how things don't work. And I think that it's a very important point to know. For example, I think medical schools are very interested in applicants who are going to serve the entirety of our nation or the entirety of the state that they're in, whatever that means. And it's just, the end result is students that have in their past served underserved populations are more likely to serve underserved populations in the future.
Yeah.
The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And so, so I think that, this is the kind of thing that the medical schools look at to say, what's this person going to be like 10 or 15 or 20 years from now? Let's look at the past and see what they've done. That's why we want to know everything that you've done. Anyway, so.
Okay. Awesome. So I want to go back to Vanity Nutrition's comment because I was able to get some more data. I didn't ask if I can share it, but I'm gonna share it anyway. I won't tell you who I got it from. Right. So Waitlist movement, and Vanity Nutrition did say, hey, specifically looking at DO schools. So I reached out to my contact in the DO world, and there was recent just survey data that the yield is 10 to 20% higher than it has been in the past.
Oh,
Meaning the number of students that are being accepted are actually matriculating.
Yeah.
So there doesn't have to be as much waitlist movement. So there you go, Vanity Nutrition. The data is in.
Yep.
Very interesting. All right. Amateur pilot. Hello, amateur pilot. Here's my story. Just graduated college with a 3.25 cumulative, 2.97 science GPA. Now enrolled at a graduate postbac in Southern California. Are you at, what is it? KGI? Reason for such a low GPA was because of freshman year, getting F and D in bio and chem, repeated all courses, got A's. When I felt like I was getting a grasp on academics, I was diagnosed with a rare tumor in my knee, going between hospital and treatment an hour away from college. Oh, Lord. Sucks, but is what it is. I got 2 C's last fall. As a result, good upward trend in all. Got a 4.0 this semester with 21 credits, taking MCAT in August. Yeah, like, what is your advice? Keep crushing it, and get rid of that stupid tumor in your knee.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I think Carlos, it sounds like this person has proven when they have the ability to prove themselves, they are doing it, and then now all of a sudden there's some medical issues going on.
Yeah, and to your point, right? Keep crushing and keep going. And we were talking about this earlier. If you're applying to MCAS, you will have an opportunity, other impactful experiences to add, the narrative that you need to add to explain what happened when there was a dip. But outside of that, I think you're continuing in that upward trend. So keep up the good work.
Yeah. Great job. Amateur pilot. What do you fly? Voidbot. As a non-trad with a full-time job in school, what is recommended for clinical experience? Longer-term shallow hours or shorter-term period with more depth? Should I wait until I'm done with school? This question comes up all the time, Scott, of students who like squeeze everything in during the summers because they want to focus on school, or not doing anything because they're focused on school and then try to cram it in at the end. I don't understand why less hours is considered shallow. I think there's, to me, is a disconnect between number of hours, right? Oh, if I only get 5 hours a week instead of 20, that's just not valuable. Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just easier. The larger the number of hours, it's just easier to assign to that more credibility. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so when you don't have as many hours, then it's less of a impressive or less, and so now there's a continuum in all of that. It's not just the more. I mean, I do think that once you get above a certain level, it's like, okay, whatever, they've got lots of hours. So yeah.
Yep.
But I to me, let me just make this comment on this one. To me, Voidbot, whatever your name is, I understand the issue that you're dealing with in terms of being a non-trad, having a full-time job and doing school, and you all you can do is what you can do, and you go out there and you try to get as many hours as you can within the context. But I have two comments about that. One is that is beneficial, that you're gonna, you're doing the hard work, you're doing the best you can, and medical schools are gonna notice that you've got a lot going on. They're gonna notice the context. Some medical schools more so than others. The other side to that is this. I worry sometimes about non-trads who don't want to have to make any sacrifices at all to do this journey. And I think sometimes in order to do it, there has to be sacrifices. And I had a guy one time who his sacrifice was selling his beloved sports car. I don't remember what it kind of was, because in order to do the journey the way he felt like it needed to be done, and the way I was supportive of it, he had to sell his car. And he came back to me a couple of years later and said, "Well, I sold my car, and now I'm going to medical school," because he had made some sacrifices to do that and to really make it to happen. Does that make sense? So I think this is a mix. It's a balancing act between, doing what you can do, but also recognizing that you may have to make some sacrifices.
Yeah. Love it. I think we got our first love letter. All right, love you guys. I'm amateur pilot.
Oh,
that's amazing. Thank you.
Jeez.
And they are going to KGI. So I was like, called it. I'm gonna go hang out with June Kim. Scott, do you know June? Do you ever meet June?
Yeah, I do. I know June. He's been around forever.
He's been around forever.
Yeah, he's been around forever. Yeah.
And they fly a Cessna 172 and a Cirrus. Those are both obviously the Cessna, the classic. The Cirrus planes are awesome though.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah, Carlos. Yeah, that's right, Carlos. Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Planes.
Yeah.
My MCAT 506. What kind of stuff would help me become more competitive for MDs? Carlos, the age-old question. How can I compensate for a lower MCAT score? Although 506 is within one standard deviation of the average. What do you think can work, if anything, for a student to quote unquote overcome a lower MCAT score or even GPA?
I always say that one doesn't outweigh the other, right? There are data points in this entire process. So to focus on what else can you add instead of thinking like, well, if I have a higher GPA, they're going to overlook the MCAT. Unfortunately, that's not the case. They're going to look at it. I think one opportunity is to retake the MCAT, right? That's the quickest, simplest thing from the perspective of if I demonstrate points gain, it means that my score increased. Therefore, I don't have to worry. But I think it's the entire application. Demonstrating your experiences, the academic piece, all of that is important as well in this process. But unfortunately, there's just not one thing that overcomes the MCAT. You're just looked at as an entire applicant. Holistic review is a thing. And so all of those experiences, your essays, MCAT, GPA, all of that comes into consideration. And so get away from the mindset of what else can I do to overcome the low MCAT. The only thing that overcomes a low MCAT is retaking the MCAT and getting a higher score.
Higher MCAT.
Right.
Yeah, right. There's no overcoming a 506 if a school has a cutoff of 507, right? And we just don't know that data. Unfortunately, schools are not public with that information for legal reasons. Typically, they just don't want to put themselves on the line if they get the perfect applicant that's 1 point below their cutoff that they have published. They want that flexibility. So, good luck. Question from Instagram, doing a do-it-yourself post back. What's the better option for OChem? Online lectures plus in-person at a university, in-person lab, I'm assuming, or fully in-person community college, if these are your only options for working full-time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Google here. Let me share my screen one more time. Hey, guys. Just a heads up, if I'm sharing the wrong thing or you don't see what I'm talking about, just give me a little heads up.
The problem is not that you don't start off in the right thing, it's that then you go into all of these other areas, and that's where you lose us.
Are you saying I go off on tangents and don't know what I'm doing?
Yes. Yes.
Well, and also you have to like just stop talking for us to like make a comment. Ouch. How did I say that out loud? Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna go now. All right. So if you go to Google and you search for MSAR PDFs, you get this first link typically that is the medical school admissions requirements reports for applicants and advisors. So this is published by the AAMC. This is legal and available for everyone. This is a ton of the MSAR data, but it's free. It's just in PDF form. And so if we come down to the pre-medical coursework chart and we look here, I just like going straight to the source. It will have each MD.
We can't see it. We can't see it.
Thank you. I appreciate it because it opened a new window. And so I always have to do that. All right. MSAR. All right. Can you see that now? Let's say add to stage. Boom.
Yep.
All right. Yep. It will have all of the MD schools on here, including TMD SAS schools. That'll show each school and each prereq, whether it's required or recommended, and whether or not that school will accept AP credit online community college. So just go through this list and look at the schools that you're interested in and just look. And a lot of schools now, thankfully, do accept online courses. There still are some that you can see are yellow. Labs must be taken on site. There are some that are yellow, but say only during the spring of 2020, obviously during COVID, right? So you can see here only during COVID. But many more schools than historically have been are saying, you know what? Online is perfectly fine. Now, I still wonder, do they still weigh them the same? They might accept them, but are they going to still have any bias in any way? So
yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah. So that's how I would answer that question there. So anyway, good stuff.
We saw everything, by the way. Everything.
Thank you for speaking up. How dare you interrupt me? Krista asks, secondaries for anything else to share? Should I write about activities I wasn't able to include due to space versus a memorable patient encounter that I learned from, mainly their mindset and attitude? Carlos, I want to throw this to you because you kind of mentioned earlier, right? Answer the question. Don't kind of cram in other things. This anything else do you want us to know about is kind of a catch-all prompt on secondaries that scares students because they're like, I don't know if I should include anything. And oftentimes the prompt will also include, this is definitely not required. If you literally have nothing to say, it's okay to leave it blank. And students are like, it's a trap. Like they still want me to write something. What do you recommend students include here?
Again, it is a catch-all, right? So they're leaving it up for you to provide the details that you want to provide, mindful of the character count. If it is optional and you have nothing and you just want to add something, think about the perception, right? If you're trying to force something into an area that really is just like, this was just fluff to fill out the question. Again, optional. Decide what you're going to provide as a substantial and is it informative for admissions committees to have that information as they assess your application. Outside of that, it really is a catch-all. Include anything that you want. I wouldn't repeat anything that's on your application. I wouldn't use this to like, let me tell you why I want to continue, why it's important for me to be a doctor. Let me tell you why it's important for me to be admitted into your program. That's not what this question is about. Anything else that you want us to know really as they assess your application. Think about it from that perspective, and I think you'll be able to provide a better response for it if you're using it, if it's required, if it's optional.
Yeah.
But a memorable patient encounter, what does that do to your application?
Yeah.
I don't think anything. So
yeah, I generally will look at what are the rest of the questions ask. If they don't ask why us, maybe that's a good opportunity to include a why this school opportunity. If they don't ask a diversity question, like, hey, what diversity are you bringing to the class? What skill set are you bringing, et cetera? Maybe that's a good opportunity. A couple different ways to think about it. But yeah, I think just another patient encounter doesn't really add much. And especially, right, that you learned, having a good mindset is important for good healthcare. Like, okay, great. Thank you for that.
don't fall into the trap also of like, I'm going to look at the AAMC's competencies for entry medical students and write these and highlight how I fit 3 of them, 5 of them, or how I fit all of the competencies.
Yeah.
Like, again, you're stretching it. You're going too far, too much.
That was literally the conversation I had with our advisor yesterday, was talking about the core competencies and how I just don't use them in terms of helping students write their essays, because what I find is literally that, Carlos. The students are like, okay, which core competencies haven't I included? I need to figure out how to include interpersonal communication, or whatever the core competencies are. And it just comes off as very forced, inauthentic, and I don't care to use them. I like that they are there, but using them as templates for writing, I don't like.
And I would say that my guess is that the majority of admissions committee members, I'm not talking about admissions officers, I'm talking about admissions committee members, faculty members, I bet they couldn't name the core competencies. If you held a gun to their head, they would have known them.
We're not holding guns to heads. I know in Texas you guys like doing that kind of thing.
I'm just saying that the important part is that the students think, oh my gosh, I need to somehow work all this in there and stuff, and everything. And the people that are actually making the decisions probably don't even know what those core competencies are.
Yeah. I agree. All right. Jamie, if I don't have a ton of shadowing, but a clinical job where I was in the OR the whole time, can I extract some hours from the job and put them into shadowing? Thank you. Scott, there's one position where I will often say, hey, like, I know that position just because of my family situation and being involved in clinical trials and knowing what clinical research coordinators often are just sitting and waiting and doing nothing. But they're in the room when the doctor's in there. I'm like, add that as shadowing, right? You're sitting there doing. But if the person's working like a scribe, it often comes up as scribing. Like, hey, I'm working as a scribe. Can I count some of those hours as shadowing? I'm like, no, you're working as a scribe. I don't necessarily like this game plan.
I agree. I think it makes it sound, I don't know. It's almost the checkbox mentality. You know, I haven't done it, so I somehow have to figure out how to quirky this my way into checking that box somehow. You know?
Yeah. Just go get some shadowing. Like, hey, Dr. Smith, when I'm done with the case today, do you mind if I hang out and go to your next case and just shadow you for a little bit? Right? There are opportunities. You're obviously in the operating room. You have access to these people. Speak up and let them know what you need. Good job. All right. Gigi, if a lot of my clinical exposure came from caretaking for sick family growing up, discussed in personal statement, will I be at a big disadvantage? I have 60 hours as a NICU volunteer, 100 plus clinical research with 1,900 anticipated. Oh, man. Carlos, any thoughts on this? Being a caretaker for a family member, the AAMC recognizes that as clinical experience. They have a blog post on it, so I always use that. But if it's all personal family, do you think schools have the ability to go, it'd be nice if it was taking care of other people?
I think it depends, right? If you're going to, so backing it up and looking at how I look at like caretaking from what level, like if you're just taking care of repeated sick members of your family or somebody that's maybe been diagnosed with a long-term disease, right, that requires caretaking, I could see that, right, if you explaining it. But if you're just like, well, no, I took care of this person and then this person, it could potentially appear of like, so your family was just sick and there was no, way out of it. I do think that you have to go beyond that and expand a little bit to demonstrate like, yes, I had sick family members that I took care of, but now that sort of my role as a caretaker is over, I have transitioned over to looking for other opportunities. Yeah, it's without additional context rather than just being a caretaker. I'm curious to know the time frame, right? How many hours? Because if it's only a year and you're banking on a year, like what have you done with the additional years, right? So it's hard to tell without that level of detail.
Yeah. There's one more question that popped up that I want to get to. We often get the how young is too young for medical school. So we have Miriam, will be 16 when applying to medical school next cycle. Should I wait to have all my prereqs and 500 hours of hospital volunteering, 48 hours of shadowing, 500 of community volunteer that started in 2021? Oh, Scott, this is blurring the lines of high school, college. My guess is that this is someone who did a lot of dual enrollment stuff in high school, but also went through high school very early as well.
Yeah. I think we have part of it is our social context has all these false, kind of narratives. Doogie Howser and what's the newest one with the guy who's like autistic or something?
Resident, is that Resident? That's not Resident, is it?
I forget what the name of that show is.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, we have these media examples.
The Good Doctor.
The good, yeah, exactly. And I just don't think there's a lot of medical schools.
Yep.
That are going to say, if you're not 18, we're not even going to look at you.
Yep.
We're just not going to, because there's a lot of schools that, because of legal and insurance reasons, liability reasons, they can't let into the clinical setting. And so much the clinical setting is so it used to be. You had the 2 years of science and then you had the 2 years of clinical. It was real separated. And so you could take somebody younger and by the time they got to the clinics, they'd be a little bit older. But it's not that way anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So question of maturity always comes around, although you're proof that no matter how old you are, maturity doesn't really come with age.
True that. True that.
Wisdom, yes. Maturity, no. So ultimately, right, so the Miriam, for you, the question comes down to, are you willing to apply and see what it's like? There may be a school that's like, ooh, like we can get in the news and have publicity for our school. I think there was it Tulane or LSU? There was a school literally within the last year that accepted a 13-year-old, 16-year-old? There was someone student accepted to medical school. It was a 13-year-old that was accepted to medical school just a few years ago. The youngest Black person and the youngest person ever to get accepted into medical school. Like, no disrespect to her, but to me, there's some publicity stunt included in that. Like, that's fantastic. I'm sure she's proven herself. If you guys have watched The Pit, there's a character on there who's a young medical student who's like, I've earned my place here. She's so defensive because she's younger. It's amazing. It's awesome. I haven't really looked into her. I just saw the headline a couple of years ago.
I've earned my place here.
Right, such a good character. I love it. I like this. We got Dr. Gray roasting MSHQ team members before GTA 6. We've been roasting each other for long before. Maybe even before GTA 5. I forget when that one came out. All right, friends. Scott, Carlos, any final words of wisdom for our stressed out pre-meds out there?
Just try to, I heard a quote the other day. You don't eat. What was the quote? Oh crap, I forgot it now. Something like, when you don't eat the fruit when you plant the seed. You don't eat the fruit until later.
Yeah.
And so notice the journey, the joy of the journey itself. If you miss the journey's joys, you're missing half of the reason we're here, in my view. So keep in mind about the journey and what's going on around you, not just about what's happening in the future.
Yeah. In other words, right, and we've talked about this a lot, right? Celebrate every day. Don't just think that getting into medical school is the goal, getting through medical school is the goal, getting through residency is the goal. Like every day you are successful and enjoy that. Just putting off that success and that joy and the celebration just makes for a miserable journey. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Carlos,
make my quote.
Insight?
Yeah, I'll make my quote easier. Yeah. Keep chugging along.
Keep chugging.
There you go.
chugging beer, chugging efforts, whatever.
Chugging along in the game of life.
Game of life. All right, friends. With that said, I hope you all have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week on Premed Office Hours. Bye-bye.